If you haven't heard from him, it just means you didn't call. Van Morrison. Yesterday I wrote about waking up one morning and being ready to let go of what had been consuming me. Perhaps you thought, well, that sounds great, but how did you get to that point? Any discussion of vairagya, renunciation, or brahmacharya, moderation, necessarily leads to a discussion of prayer. This is a video about yoga, not prayer, and yet I feel it's important to point out that prayer is the original spiritual practice, long after all our other practices have fallen by the wayside. And no matter how much pain we are in or how self-destructive we have been, prayer is available to us, and prayer will find us the energy we need to come back from the brink. The message of the Buddha, of Christ, and of yoga is the possibility of resurrection, redemption, rebirth. Prayer is the locomotive that drives the resurrection train. If we are to seriously consider enacting all of the yamas and niyamas in our lives, we must begin to examine the idea of spiritual force, spiritual momentum. Any honest individual will admit that to truly live the yamas and niyamas would require a radical shift. In fact, to make the realization of all the yamas and niyamas your aim in life is to desire the impossible. But prayer makes the impossible possible. Prayer enables us to tap into the healing power of the universe. We do not do the yamas and niyamas, we allow them to be enacted through us. We allow their energies to flourish in the world through us as we surrender to them. Prayer is the means by which we formally surrender. Going to the mat is a form of surrender. Abstaining from violence and being truthful are forms of surrender. Prayer is surrender. The simplest prayer I know is, "Thy will be done." The next simplest is, "Please help me with..." When praying, it helps to keep things simple and selfless. If you don't know who you are praying to, join the club. No one does for sure. If you meet someone who does know, read his or her book. In the meantime, be a yogi and experiment to find out what works for you. Whenever I pray, things have a way of working out far better than I could imagine. This has so often been true that it brings me to tears, thinking that there are people whose fears will not allow them to receive the beauty that prayer has brought into my life. Let the power of prayer speak for itself. And if you haven't heard from the spirit of the universe, that just means you haven't called.